This is the new era. This is the new band, and we're unbreakable.
We can rebuild him. We have the technology. We can make him better than he was. Better, stronger, faster. Actually, better, stronger,
faster. Is that a
faster.
line from Starship Troopers or something?
No, it's actually the $1 Million Man.
$6 Million Man. I know that, and
I don't even know what that is.
We Brits don't do excitement, so this is the best you're gonna get.
Chris is bringing the noise today, apparently.
Speaking of vanilla,
it's just I don't understand why.
I don't think anyone does. I don't think Travis Green understands.
Talking you through every goalie controversy, scoring slump, and draft lottery bust. This is the C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com and CKNW.com. Here they are, the best starting lineup to never wear a C, Chris, Anna, Matt, and Adam.
Welcome to another episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast. I am Chris at Lightforce, a voice you haven't heard in a while or so, joined virtually by Matt Lee at Lee_61. I'm at Lightforce. I think I failed to mention that. Anna is not here. She has actually gone back to the home country for a vacay. That's A Forsyth 03 on Twitter, and Adam Obenall Carter at AdamFOC. He's still doing the camp counselor thing, isn't he?
Yes, I think he's. I really don't want to say anything more than that now, though. I'm very skittish.
He isn't here. He's busy doing his summer thing. So it is just you and I in what has to be the doldrums of the NHL news cycle.
But I will say, though we're not in a hot box, I am also in a hot box right now. It is hot as hell today.
Oh, so my car had me at like 30 this afternoon.
Yeah.
It's an external temperature. It's not like I'm in my house, in my den, and I kid you not, I could probably boil an egg just by holding it in my hand.
Oh, is your place hot?
Oh gosh, yeah. Like we face east. So as soon as the sun comes up on the horizon at like whatever 4:30 in the morning, 5 in the morning, it just starts to bake.
I thought you and Marnie had AC though.
Hot air out.
You
in our bedroom.
Oh well. Wait a minute. Hang on. Okay, so let me get this straight. So you and Mrs. Lightforce have AC, and yet your infant child is not able to have AC?
Well, her crib's in our bedroom.
Oh, I see. Never mind. I thought Baby Force had a separate room.
No.
I forgot that as podcast hosts, we don't get paid that much.
No, not at all. Though at some point in time, we're going to have to find a bigger place because yes, Baby Force is going to need her own room. But yeah, she gets the air conditioning, the master bedroom, which is our only bedroom.
Right.
But it's smoking hot in here. We just can't get the heat out. And that's the struggle. I think if we could somehow get like airflow, then it would be perfect. But no, it's a complete struggle right now. Just can't begin to imagine, how people were able to live without air conditioning. Hell, how we were able to do without air conditioning. I don't know.
Yeah.
But as far as NHL doldrums, we're going to talk a little bit about hockey. We've got some Canucks chatter to get to. But before we dive into that, do you know what episode number this one is, Matt?
To do the hundo. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. It's 200.
Well, no, not this one. This one is 199.
Oh, this is 199. But next episode, the next episode is 200.
That's right. The next episode is 200. So for those of you who've been keeping track of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast at home, we have been on the air now. Gosh, I want to say it's like coming up to almost 7 years, 6 some odd years. We're right now the longest running Canucks podcast out there. There is no other Canucks podcast that comes close to us.
We really got to market that a little bit more, eh? That we're the longest running podcast.
Well, it's the fact that
that's the claim to fame.
We've probably been available longer than half of the radio stations in Vancouver.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But the other thing I would say is I remember when we first started this podcast, and it was around the time when, well, no, I mean, it wasn't, but it was around, there was a time when we were doing video blogs of Roberto Luongo's impending trade out of Vancouver before Corey Schneider had even been dealt. Do you remember some of those?
TV.
Yes.
Yeah, I used to do CHB TV down at the Hog Shack.
The Hog Shack, great location. Shout out to our friends at the Hog Shack. But yes. That's how long we've been doing this episode.
I kind of miss those.
I think we should do something like that again.
C4 TV?
C4 TV,
Like
a Hog Shack hookup, if you will, something like that. I mean, maybe I just want some Southern barbecue. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because if we add CHB TV into the mix, then that adds like another year to how long we've been around. Like just the podcast. It's not been around for a while. But anyhow, I digress. We thought it would be cool though for episode 200 to do something special. So we decided to reach out and ask if someone wanted to join us for the podcast. I will give you 2 guesses, Matt, who that person might be.
Guessing JJ wasn't available, huh?
I asked him. He did not get back to me.
Of course he did.
Godfather has gone incommunicado.
Well, if we're not going with JJ, we can't go to Ryan Beach anymore because, he works for the Canucks now.
He doesn't return my phone calls. I'm probably blocked.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's not returning anybody's phone calls now. But if
good for Beach though, he got.
Oh yeah, I mean totally. I mean, we can now say that we've had a guest on the show who now has landed a job with the Canucks. We make magic happen. I don't want to say it was all us, but I'm pretty sure we had something to do with it.
Very, very, very strong inclination that C4 elevates people to the front.
Hey, it is what it is. When we're a man of the people, like we know Jim listens to the show. But if Beach can't do it, and if JJ can't do it, I'm pretty sure that leaves only Clayton Nemo.
Who he himself was propelled onto, the prime time. I mean, he's got a super successful.
He's getting voted for NHL awards now. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and to think he got his start with us on C4. In fact, history lesson here. C4 stood for Chris and Clay's Canucks commentary. When Clay left, that didn't really work, so we just learned.
We couldn't really change it after that. But good to know that Clay still has time for the little people, us being little people. We are looking forward to.
You tune in just for the listeners.
Yeah. I'm personally looking forward to having Clay back on the show for 1 episode only. Maybe it'll convince him to drop by every now and then after that, depending on it all going well. What about you? You're excited?
I'm totally excited. It'll be nice to have a guy my age, podcast.
Yes, you have been the butt end of the old people jokes for quite a while now, so it is nice to have someone take the heat off of you for once.
And Clay remembers an era of Canucks hockey that neither you nor Adam nor Anna can relate to.
Back when they were playing with wooden hockey sticks, no helmets.
No helmets, and if you didn't have a solid porn stash, then you were nobody. Speaking of porn stash, you seen Austin Matthews' Latin cousin Austin?
I joked about this in the Discord app, but the next season of Narcos starring Austin Matthews is going to be terrific.
And again, if you haven't seen this picture, it's all out there on social, but the easiest place to find it is in our Discord. When Bearded Canucks shared that, I actually chuckled out loud. And I had to show Marnie what I was laughing at. She didn't get it, but oh my goodness, that stash.
It's pretty dirty.
Some hockey players go out boating, and in the summer, Austin Matthews been working on his Latin mustache.
Yeah, it is the greatest thing to come together since Joe Thornton's beard. So I'm personally hoping that Austin Matthews leaves it on for the entirety of the season.
The difference, though, is we do know there are no birds nesting in the mustache. It's not like Lanny McDonald. Or Dave Babbage style.
Oof.
That, thin, very...
Does it curl? I can't even remember. I need to go back and look at it. Hang on, I'm going to go back and look.
I don't think it curl. I mean, maybe a little bit, but it's that, razor thin... Again, I mean...
does Austin Matthews look like he's going to dress up into a black cape and tie someone to the railroad tracks or something with this thing? No, it's not. It doesn't curl. I'll tell you right now, it doesn't curl.
Well, I think we've led our listeners astray enough here. So why don't we jump directly into, rewind. Okay, so I think no episode is complete without some conversation about Loui Eriksson and the fact that he still remains a Canuck player for the moment. Trying Travis Green had some comments on the matter, and Matt, I know you have a strong opinion about a said player, maybe said comments as well. But thoughts on Mr. Green's comment on Loui Eriksson, the situation of him still being around?
I think this has been a situation that has just completely devolved into, one of the biggest side stories of the entire offseason. And, we heard a little bit about how before this interview that Travis Green and Loui Eriksson didn't get along 100% and that you didn't trust him the way that his previous coaches did. And, Green saying he was surprised that it came out publicly. He says he's not surprised that he's not happy about it as well. He respects Louis's career as well, but he's also said that the best player is going to play on this team regardless of contract. And I think that's the right answer for Travis Green to give, is that the best player should play regardless of contract. And, the signing or the player bonus, if you will, for Loui Eriksson came and gone. And I think a lot of us thought maybe that was the time for Loui Eriksson to get moved. We saw the Lucic for Neil trade happen and Loui Eriksson was still here. I'm pretty much resigned to the fact that Loui Eriksson will be a Vancouver Canuck in some way, shape, or form come the start of the regular season. I don't know if that means he's going to be a regular player on the Vancouver Canucks, though.
But therein lies the problem, though, is that the Vancouver Canucks are currently in a little bit of a cap predicament. I mean, it's not outright trouble, but the cap recapture, unfortunately, has eaten up a portion of the space they had thought they would have to play with. Loui Eriksson is clearly on the outs. I mean, read into it as you may wish, but the fact that his family has moved as well is not a good indicator that he's sticking around, or even if he does, that he would be all that enrolled in the idea of playing. But is there a way for Loui Eriksson as a player to be sort of reclaimed? I mean, I'll use an example of Roberto Luongo. I mean, for a while, Roberto was on the way out of Vancouver and sort of finally came around to this idea that he was going to stick around. And as a player, not only sort of embraced the fact that he was going to be a Canuck forever, that didn't actually pan out to be the case, but he also was able to be embraced by the fans and provided us some pretty decent play. Unfortunately, the Heritage Classic happened, and that was all she wrote. But could Loui Eriksson have such a reclamation season where things do turn around?
Not on the Vancouver Canucks, I don't think. I mean, we have seen, I think, all that we are ever going to see out of Loui Eriksson, in my opinion. I mean, the guy has, single-digit goal totals every single season that he's been with the Vancouver Canucks, if I'm not mistaken. I said this before almost a year or two after Loui Eriksson started playing with the Vancouver Canucks, and it's that he doesn't strike you as the kind of guy who's going to go through a wall like Bo Horvat does. He looks like the kind of guy who's here to cash in his $6 million every year and go home. And for me, that hasn't been the case. That there hasn't been any sort of signs from Loui Eriksson that he's willing to elevate his game beyond what he's already got. I mean, I'm looking at it now. 11 goals, 10 goals, 11 goals in his 3 seasons with the Vancouver Canucks. And of course, some of those are little kind of a bit of an asterisk because of the fact he's missed so many games. But when Loui Eriksson, who's getting paid $6 million, is getting you only 25 plus points per season for the last 3 years, it's not a good sign. And I think it wears on players and coaches after a while. And for me, I still feel like the best course of action is for Loui Eriksson to get a trade out of Vancouver in some way, shape, or form.
So what team out there is able to take on Loui? I mean, there are teams. I should qualify that. There are teams that currently have quite a bit of cap space to take on a Loui. But I kind of wonder at this point, what is it that the Canucks have to give up for Loui to go? And I do feel that most teams are probably going to look for the Canucks to use this contract as it is. So I kind of wonder if at this point in time we shouldn't just resign ourselves to the fact that he's going to be sent off to Robidas Island. Like, I don't know any other true alternative, short of keeping him on the NHL roster. But then at that point, if he's not going to play, night in, night out, that's an expensive anchor to have up in the press box.
No, I totally. And at this point, if you're the Vancouver Canucks, I think you're willing to eat a little bit of salary. You're not willing to eat a lot of it. But, at this point, I am willing to do whatever it takes to get Loui Eriksson off this roster, which doesn't have the Vancouver Canucks throwing in a sweetener. I don't know if that's realistic or not, but it's come to the point where Loui Eriksson is like, would you rather buy him out and say that $1 million per season? I mean, not buying him out, but burying him in Utica, I should say. To say that $1 million per season.
Yeah, well,
because it's come to the point where almost the roster spot is more valuable than the potential cap savings you would get with Loui Eriksson.
That's true, and I guess, if he does get buried, there is the ability to have someone, fill that space, and I guess that would be more palatable than having him up in the press box, where he's essentially making money to eat popcorn. I, also, pray to the NHL gods that someone would decide to pick him up for free off of waivers just because, but, I know that's a pipe dream. The other issue, though, with the Loui Eriksson is that he does have a no-trade clause, and, do you think he would just open it up to get off the Canucks? Or do you think he would ultimately say, here are I think it's like 15 teams he says he doesn't go to. But does he actually put the Canucks in a position where they could send him somewhere? Or is he going to go and ensure like a Toronto, who has absolutely no cap space and is currently in contravention, is one of the teams on the, send me their list because they have a shot. I actually would see him as saying, here are the teams that actually have a legitimate shot as being the teams I want to go to. And many of those teams aren't in a position to take on.
Yeah, there's really not that many teams that are willing to eat $6 million per season for the next 3 years if you're the Vancouver Canucks looking to move out Loui Eriksson. Originally I was thinking maybe there's a shot Dallas would be willing to have a reunion tour with Loui Eriksson, but then they went out and signed Joe Pavelski, and I think that rules that out.
I actually should qualify that. I just went to Cap Friendly, so he's still on a full NTC this season. So all of the ability for Loui to say, here's where I go, is on his side. I truly wonder, how motivated would he be to go to any other?
Well, I mean, it being the beginning of August, let's put it this way. I think right now Loui Eriksson is playing hardball with the Vancouver Canucks. Those conversations, I think, have been there about, looking to move him, getting him a fresh start at some other place. But Loui Eriksson holding that NTC holds all the cards at this point, and I think he's really trying very hard to strong-arm the Canucks and sort of pick and choose his destination, not unlike what Ryan Kessler did on his way out of Vancouver. I mean, but if you're the Vancouver Canucks, isn't it just better to just keep him on this roster, refuse to play him until he opens up his options? If I'm the Vancouver Canucks and this divorce is going to get even uglier, just let him rot in the press box then. And I think that's what the signal was from Travis Green in that interview as well, to be honest, is that Travis Green is going to say the best player will play regardless of salary. And if that's not Loui Eriksson, then it's tough cookies for Loui Eriksson. And if Loui Eriksson wants a trade, then maybe he needs to open up his options on destination a little bit.
And just actually going back to your comment on his stats, Loui has actually...
Yeah, all 3 years, but just barely, right?
11, and then...
Yeah.
Just barely, 11, 10, and 11. And his point total, 24, 23, 29. You're right. He's being paid for considerably better performance than what we're seeing. And if we actually consider in his first season, he had a lot of that time with the Sedins who could make a pile on, perform well. It doesn't bode well that Loui has signed a big paycheck and has continued to sort of quote unquote reel it. So let's say Loui Eriksson is up there in the press box rotting. How long does that go on for? Do you conceive that the Canucks would just let him rot? Do you foresee Loui finally saying, "Fine, send me somewhere," or does he become a buyout next year? I mean, buying out Loui Eriksson doesn't save a whole lot of money. At that point, you're actually just accepting the fact that he just frees up the roster spot, one less contract on the books, and you're just losing that's what sucks. You'll lose more cap space in the 2 years following.
Yeah.
I don't know what the solution is. It's just unfortunate that it's come to this point where Loui Eriksson is a problem that doesn't seem to be easily solved.
No, totally not. And I mean, at this point, you look at the roster construction in the forward lineup, and I really don't see a situation where Loui Eriksson is going to play steady minutes on every given game. There's just too much of a logjam up front for the Vancouver Canucks for Loui Eriksson to be one of those guys. Like, would you rather have Josh Levo play or Loui Eriksson? I mean, that's what we're talking about, though. Like, there are like 3 or 4 Josh Levos on this Vancouver Canucks team, Chris, and they all show a little bit more intensity and desire than Loui Eriksson does.
Well, it's the work rate. That's actually, like, to me, I'm not seeing a significant difference in the quality of play, but there's more blue collar to a Levo than you're ever going to get out of Loui Eriksson. No matter how many little things.
I see what you did there.
Enough of Loui Eriksson. Let's talk a little bit about Brock. So,
well, hang on. Before we talk about Brock, can we also just give a some quick thoughts and prayers for his dad, Duke Besser, who, of course, battling a very serious situation down in Minnesota. It sounds like the situation has improved a little bit with Duke Besser, but it is rough go right now for the Besser family, and we're sending a lot of happy thoughts to Brock Besser as he battles yet another very serious issue in the family.
Yeah, and that's, something that I feel horrible not even to have mentioned off the top is, make sure that, Duke Besser's in your thoughts. This can't be easy for the Besser family to have to be going through right now. And it actually sort of, I guess, does lead into sort of this conversation we're going to have about the Brock Besser contract. I'll be very honest. The last thing I think Brock Besser needs to be worrying about right now is contract. Mm-hmm. It actually, sort of even changes the dynamic of the conversation that I wanted us to have here, because at the end of the day, I would have thought that the contract was already. And now with the situation it is, I know that Brock has an agent, but ultimately, family needs to be focused. And in fact, I think that as an organization, the Canucks would be.
Yeah, I think so too. And but despite everything that we have seen in terms of contract negotiations leading up to today, it still sounds from both sides like they are both in agreement of wanting to get a contract done. We heard over the weekend as well, I believe, I can't remember who it was from now. I think it was Ben Kuzma who said that Besser's camp wants about $7 million per year. Like, for me, $7 million doesn't sound like a whole lot of money for Brock Besser in the first place, by the way. I think right now what's best for both sides is that the Canucks give the Besser family all the space and time that they need. The contract will get done in some way, shape, or form. It will get done before training camp opens, and I think it actually is better for the Canucks from a positional and reputational standpoint to give the Besser family as much time as they need right now, and offering the support, any kind of support that they can. Just because we know that what Duke Besser has gone through with regards to Parkinson's and now lung cancer, it's a very tough situation, and so I think the contract is in the back of their minds, of course, but it's definitely not at the forefront right now, and nor should it be.
But on the topic of $7 million,
come on, he's worth it.
Can the Canucks? I'm not suggesting he's not worth it, but if the Canucks, let's say, do give him $7, we would need to see. Again, we need to see an Eriksson off. We need to see a Sutter, like one of them off. Otherwise, we're essentially. I mean, I'm not trying to compare apples to even fruit here. Tim Schaller, Josh Levo are the only two UFAs. I guess Chris Tanev as well, but you would need a replacement, or an equivalent replacement there to see, the same amount of room the Canucks would be eating up in the cap. I'm not suggesting he's not worth it. It's just I think it does require the Canucks to massage their lineup a little bit more. And Alex Edler, for instance, we did say the money he's coming back for was fine, all things considered. But you currently have, an Edler and Myers taking up $12 million of your blue line, and then if we were to see a $7 million up at the top with still Eriksson on the books, the Canucks will have arguably a first two lines. Gosh, we'd be looking at almost 30
It's a lot of money.
just on the first two, right? It's again, I don't know what the answers are. I don't. As we're going to hear a little bit later in the podcast, I don't know how to build a hockey team. So, hey, who am I to argue? I just kind of wonder if it's 7. There has to be a good term there at that point.
I agree. I mean, at 7, I think you're buying at least maybe 1 or 2 of those UFA eligible years. If I'm not mistaken, Brock only needs 4 to get into UFA status. So if you're signing him to $7 million, I'm hoping that you're buying at least maybe 1, maybe even 2 years of his UFA status. But, gosh, Chris, I mean, you just look at the cap situation for the Canucks. I'm still wondering where they're going to find that money at this point. I mean, it's $5 million right now that they have in cap space, and that's with a lot of extra bodies at this point. But there's definitely someone that's going to need to get shuffled out, I think, just to give the Canucks a little bit of breathing room in the cap.
Well, and we also have to consider as well. Let's say they do sign Besser. They're at that point in time, you know, there is a contract that's going away. But then you have a player like Nikolai Goldovin, who the Canucks, you know, qualified.
And have said on record that they want to bring him back.
And yet, you have no money for Nikolai at that point. Like I don't know how they will manage that. I know that they will, and you know, the Canucks aren't the only team in this predicament right now. Like as we sort of talked about previously, right now you have the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Washington Capitals, the Buffalo Sabres, and the Pittsburgh Penguins all in cap contravention. They're allowed to exceed in the off season for I think it's up to 10% of the cap. But when puck drops at the start of the season, they have to be in line with the cap itself. There is no ability to go over. So, you know, I kind of wish the Canucks had more cap room, because those are 4 teams right there that potentially they could go and take advantage of. You know, imagine another Christian Ehrhoff falling into their lap because of the team cap trouble.
Yeah, but they don't do that.
That's true. Anyway, why don't we take a quick break before we jump into some crazy stuff.
He liked to say the F word.
Well, then get the here then. Okay, see ya.
Is going to have the F word on it.
I wish I could give you an explanation about it. I can't. You, out of here.
You said the F word, Dad.
You called me the F word.
Matt, I got to ask you. You brought this up in the Discord when news broke that obviously in radio during the summer, at least sports radio, it's so crazy. Like I think 1040 does their President's Week, and 650 has been doing like this mix and match thing, and they had was it Adam Forsyth? Is that his name? Who is one half of the Green Men.
News to me. Spoiler alert.
Force. So for those of you who do not know, Force, his name is Adam Forsyth. Yeah, he was on with Andrew Walker on 650, and you felt the need to say, "I hate the Green Men." Why?
Okay, so let me preface this by saying I respect what the Green Men did during their heyday, during what was probably one of the most exciting times to be a Vancouver Canucks fan. Like, when did the Green Men really start coming into Canucks games? I want to say like 2008, 2009, somewhere around there?
Yeah, it would have been
like they were just
it was before the Olympics.
So they were around for about
and it was in
they were around from like, let's say 2008 to 2013, 14, somewhere around there. So that was probably right around the time when the Canucks were in that like legitimate Stanley Cup contender status. And I think that their presence at the games by the penalty box, I think that they definitely added a little bit of excitement to those games, and they brought more of an atmosphere to the games. However, in the years since that they've retired, it just feels to me like they are still trying to hang on to their quote-unquote stardom, if you will, that they're trying to hang on to relevance. And for me, it is a bad look reputationally for them to continue trying to hang around and be part of that kind of consciousness when they needed to just retire gracefully like they had. And if there's any sort of suggestion that they're like coming out of retirement for their 50th season for the Vancouver Canucks, it's, for me, they were great then, but they need to stay retired now. And to bring them back now is in poor taste in my mind.
Okay, so, I mean, how much is it them hanging on in so much as it's others trying to embrace them? Like, I kid you not, I would imagine a conversation has happened on the Canucks side where their marketing team said, yeah, we should have the Green Men out for our, 50th season. That has to have happened. Like, they want to relive glory days, and those were glory days that the Green Men were around for. Like, you can't believe the Canucks would not go and reach out to the guys say, hey, can you throw those bodysuits on? We'd like you to come to a game.
You think the Canucks have reached out to them?
Oh gosh, yeah. Or if they haven't reached out, have had a conversation. And
sure. While we're at it, why don't we just re-raise that number 7, the 7th man rafters back into the arena?
Okay, you can only retire Cliff Ronnian and Brendan Morrison so many times. I'm not suggesting the raising of the 7th man banner as being a smart move. I think the Canucks would tell you, yeah, that was a swing and a big miss. Like, they were trying to pull what happens.
What else are we doing for the 50th? What else are we doing for the 50th season? Are we going to have Pratt and Taylor reunite for a show or something too? Are we going to have Matt Sundin Ring of Honor induction night happening too? This is all. I don't know. It's all crazy when you think about it. That this is the Green Men. They were awesome when they were around, but don't hang around. Don't prolong. Don't overstay your welcome.
So, if they're asked, what you're saying is they should say no. I don't think that the Adam Forsyth reached out to 650. Hey guys, can you get me on the radio? I kind of expect that someone at 650 reached out to him and said, hey, you want to join Andrew Walker?
Yeah.
That's the way I picture it. I don't see the Green Men as being the hangers-on.
You can convince me that they could come back for one game or something like that, but for them to come fully fledged out of retirement for the entire season would be too much. Agreed?
Okay, they're not going to. That would not happen. I agree. I think them coming out of retirement, you're right. That's overkill.
If it's a one night only situation,
for a game,
then fine. That's fine. No one's getting hurt by doing that. But any of this discussion,
it'll be a Saturday game on Hockey.
Sure, I just don't want them to come out for the entire season. Don't tarnish the quote unquote legacy that you have left in the city.
Do you think they still have the original body?
I think that they're going to fit a little bit more tighter than normal.
I mean, it's first of all the fact that they bought the bodysuits. I think was for something to do with it going down to the Seahawks, and this bodysuits actually arrived late, so they didn't work out, and then they made the call to wear them to a Canucks game, and there's history for you. I think we'll see them for a game. I think the Canucks would be smart to do that. They want to go and they want to have people rekindle their memory. It's the 50th season. We're seeing retro jerseys this year.
Yeah, that's different though. I'm going to get one of those, by the way.
Yeah, but I'll go. Okay, it's different. Why?
Okay, well the jersey.
The retro jerseys are cool.
Yes,
the Green Men are not.
Do you think I'm going to get out into a green spandex and walk around? No. If I have an excuse to get a black flying skate jersey, that's pretty cool. Let me get.
Okay,
let me get this one. Do you have a black flying skate jersey? Are you going to get a new one? I think
I bought another one. I don't know. Maybe I might put it on a Christmas list or a birthday list.
Yeah. Totally off the rails. Totally off the rails.
Showed up great.
Is it? You tell me what this is. How you feel about this? So the Dad Lee, he gets his stick and rink original 1970s blue jersey, right? He's got one of those, the original ones. Yeah. And guess what name he puts on the back of that jersey? Yes.
Patterson.
Now, obviously, we have never seen Pettersson wear said stick and rink blue jersey. Is it a faux pas?
He won't be
Is it a
wearing
faux
this year
pas
either.
for you to get the name of a jersey, name on the back of a jersey for a player who's never worn that jersey?
Okay, I would consider it a jersey.
I agree.
Now, for someone who might be listening to podcasts to be like, no, Chris, they're wearing those jerseys. No, the stick and rink jersey they'll be wearing this year is not the stick and rink jersey. It's been changed. Like they've, for whatever reason, they decided to change the stick and rink style I see. So it is not the same jersey. So I'm not going to give Pettersson, once he wears it, the ability to then give the dad.
Yeah, that is one of the most egregious jersey fouls that I've seen. It's right up there with the people who have number 23 and it says D.H. Sedin on the back. Like, that's right up there with that.
No, but what makes it even better is where they have the home and away together too. So that there is the
my
differentiation
goodness. Why don't we just have the number 7th man jersey ceremony all over again while we're at it?
Well, there was someone who wore a Sundin jersey that had Toronto half Canucks for his cup of
I think we have
coffee.
our next podcast for the next Off the Rails, which is the most egregious jersey fouls you've ever seen in both hockey and other professional sports.
Oh.
Yeah, that's just brutal.
Anyhow, so, okay, yes, I would get one of those, retro black...
I think so too. Let's take a bit of a break. When we come back, we'll have more shenanigans. Are you good with that?
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? Because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He's going to get a lot of power play time, and yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
We were talking earlier about how hot
Dude, I'm sweating.
And
I've showered already once today. I have to. Do you shower twice in a day in the summer?
Okay, sometimes in the summer I do. It really depends. Like, because my routine is you get up in the morning, I shower, shave, all that jazz, and then if I'm like, doing any form of like physical activity over the course of the day, there's
like even if I go on a light walk outside, I will need to shower later in the day.
Okay, well I'm not that bad, but like I'll hop into like a nice cold shower where it's just more like the water and it helps to get you refreshed before you. I will see I do that. It just I don't. I know I'm going back on the whole age thing. I don't recall summers being like this, years ago. And I know, climate change is a real thing. I'm not trying to suggest it's not. It's just, I miss how it used to be a heat wave in Vancouver. It was just a few days, but now this is just what we have. And it's, I know, relative for some of our European podcast listeners. They're like, right now they're cooking in like, plus 40 degree temperature.
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine what it would be like, living with a temperature that high. I struggle when it gets into the high 20s. And again, for those of you in the United States who, go by Fahrenheit, I am so sorry, but the rest of the world...
Join us in Celsius. World.
It makes sense. Or boils at 100. If it's 0, how hard...
Sorry, one more off-the-rails thing. But I noticed before A Forsyth 030 left for the homeland that it was like 43 degrees in England or something like that the day before. I was like, oh, no thank you.
Well, all I've seen is pictures of her.
Oh, is that what she's doing?
Which doesn't seem like a bad place to go to cool off with a pint. Speaking of pubs and pints, it's a common occurrence that, like, how like you might take a coffee break in the afternoon? In like London, they head down to the pub, grab a pint. Maybe at lunch they'll grab a pint. Like I couldn't.
You know what what would happen to me if I grab a pint at lunch? Face down on the floor.
Well, you're a little bit different.
And special.
One shot of like non-alcoholic beer and Madeline gets a little red in the face. Interesting to see. But back on the whole the temperature thing. Like, What do you do to cool down? I'm genuinely curious. Like, just you don't have AC in your place, do you?
Look.
So what is it that you do to like cool down? Like, is it just you
wear
sit there
less
and
clothes?
Melt and complain about it on a podcast?
What do you think I'm wearing right now?
Go so far, and then it becomes. I don't want to know.
It took 35 minutes for you to realize what I'm wearing. Just visualize it, Christopher.
Oh man. Oh, what's this?
Dear. Let's get back on the rails then. How about that? So I was having some discussions with friends, of course, and I look at the Vancouver Canucks roster, and I am not sure who I would protect in an expansion draft in 2021. There are a lot of players on this team that I'm not sure how someone good does not get left unprotected. Just to bring you up to speed, Chris, if you could, you have to protect 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goaltender. No movement clauses, those are auto-protected. Anyone who's a first or second year pro is automatically exempt, as are unsigned draft picks. So, Loui Eriksson, we'll just run from the top to the bottom here. That's an easy expose. Bo Horvat, that's
Oh yeah, he's totally exposed. And I don't see.
Bo Horvat, that's an easy protect. We'll
actually, and just to confirm, are we talking about the roster as it
no, but when it exists in 2021. Yeah. We'll assume JT Miller is still on this team, and he's a protect.
Well, he does.
We'll come back to JT Miller. He's I'm pretty sure I would protect.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, with what the Canucks paid for him, totally. But if it's another Loui Eriksson, it doesn't.
Everyone else here that's not Elias Pettersson and Brock Besser is also worthy of being exposed. So right now that would leave Horvat, Miller, Pettersson, and Besser as the easy 4 out of the 5 forwards that you would protect, correct? So of the other forwards left, there's 1 forward spot left to protect. Who would that spot belong to? Roussel?
Well, but that's the thing is like
Virtanen?
Well, see, I would protect Virtanen, but we don't know if Virtanen will still be around. I think for the difficulty we have right now is that this is essentially 2 seasons, 2.5 seasons. So for us to go in and determine,
it is a way too soon exercise.
Like there's a few more bad deals for Jim Benning to make, or his.
Or Peter Chiarelli, we're in the market for a new GM. Paul Fenton, you want to take him too?
Sure, why not? Canucks need a
my gills.
Maybe. Who apparently has not been spoken to yet. There's a whole lot of smoke that suggests otherwise. I don't think Roussel
over Virtanen.
Although, no, but again, I'm not trying to compare Roussel to Virtanen. I think Virtanen, if Virtanen has an actual decent season, let's say he goes into the season here, and he plays that, sort of Matt Cook or smarter Rafi
like what you're talking about,
well, right? Then in my mind, there's some value there, and that's why the Canucks would go and protect him. That keeps him on the team too. Or if it doesn't keep him on the team, it gets value to someone else back. But no, I don't see Roussel as being someone you would go and protect. I just feel there's other players out there that you can get.
I won't make you go through the entire exercise of who you protect, but I will say that my school of thought here is that in expansion drafts, you have to protect the players that have the highest ceiling, is a good rule of thumb to have. And I still think that Jake Virtanen has quite a bit of a high ceiling compared to the likes of, let's say, Pearson, Ferland, Berchi, Roussel, the other guys that you would probably consider taking over Virtanen. Fair?
I agree. I think that's fair. I do believe that the ceiling for Virtanen is
but
higher,
look at those other players. They're all Jags, Chris. Like Sutter, Pearson, Ferland, they're all replaceable.
That's what he's getting at himself. Yeah, that's what he's getting at. I feel like with Virtanen, there's still more to this story and potential there. But when I'm describing him as like a Matt Cook or a Rafi Torres, it doesn't really extend the ceiling too high. just that seems to me to be the player that the Canucks have been missing. Like Roussel has done okay, fulfilling that role, but the Canucks just don't have that young firebrand that's just skating around the ice, playing the puck, playing other players heavy, aggressive forecheck. Like that role, the Canucks just don't seem to have someone to fill very well.
If I'm not mistaken as well, by the way, Quinn Hughes would be auto-protected. Even though he's got 3 years done, by then, he's auto-protected because I think he didn't play enough games this past season to qualify.
He won't be an RFA. He will be an
RFA by 2021.
An RFA by that point.
Yeah, he would.
Not in the extent that he can be offered. He'll be an RFA, but similar to Brock.
Yeah. Anyway, very interesting thoughts. I thought anyway. I mean, you think about the Seattle expansion. It's definitely not happening tomorrow or anything like that, but it is on the horizon, and I think these are the conversations we'll continue to have as expansion gets closer. Oh God. Ooh. Okay, so let's say we're living in a world where Jacob Markstrom gets re-upped, right? Because he's only on the hook for this upcoming season, and then I think he's a UFA after the season, correct?
That's correct.
So let's say we live in a world where Jacob Markstrom gets a contract extension. I think I'm still taking Thatcher Demko.
Okay.
Tell me I'm wrong.
I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just in a world where Markstrom gets re-upped. Him getting re-upped is a sign to me that the Canucks see him as their goaltender of now as they're looking to make a run. So if he gets re-upped, I see him being the one that they look to protect, whether or not that's right or wrong. But let's say I play devil's advocate and they do protect a Markstrom, and we don't know what other goaltenders will be out there, but Demko immediately
Demko gets plucked in a second.
Target, right?
In a second.
Yeah, I still wonder if Markstrom, I talked about it, over the course of the podcast this season, Markstrom continues to remain a Vancouver Canuck this next season. Because if he plays as well as he did coming here, he's going to be wanting a raise, and he'll deserve it. He's at 3.7, I think, right now. And if he were to play well, I don't know if the Canucks can actually afford him at that point. So that's where you need to look to sell. But then, when do you sell? Teams don't generally look to buy goaltenders on trade deadline.
Well, the trade value for goaltenders in general is never really that high, right?
Yeah, so I still think if there's a sales opportunity to be had, the Canucks honestly need to look at it as a possibility. Hell, I was the guy that was trying to say that, bring Roberto
just for
back.
The giggles?
The
song, reunion tour.
The mentor. Well, no, I mean, looking at Roberto and his retirement, he said, you know what, I find I made the right decision. My body's ready for me not to come back. I don't know if that's 100% true. I think there was sort of
he got a slight nudge, though, out the door.
Right. I think if an opportunity had presented itself, hey, come and, play some meaningful hockey, help us, mentor some young goaltenders, I kind of think he might have. It doesn't necessarily change things significantly, but if, let's say, the Canucks were to have traded Markstrom away and then brought on a Roberto Luongo, that's something.
It could have been something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's
whatever.
Anyhow, it's all moot. Roberto hung up the pads.
I heard through the grapevine that Denny Potvin, the former Panthers color guy, has retired, and so there's another former goalie who's out there who's thinking about joining the broadcast booth.
I think Roberto in the broadcast booth would be interesting. I actually am genuinely curious if he would be that very serious goaltender, or if he'd be more like John Garrett. Hearted style.
I think he would be a little bit of both. A bit of both, I think.
Yeah. The personality we now see, sort of in more mature Luongo, I feel he's more John.
You know what they need?
More aloof.
They need, on Hockey Night in Canada, they need Roberto Luongo in the color and Kevin Bieksa between the benches.
Oh, so that's how I was going to actually bring up. Like, when does Kevin Bieksa get a job? This is a guy who should already...
Bieksa should be between the benches one day. I could see that.
I think he would be, like, you... Okay, actually, right now, who is the best person between those
Ferraro.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, hands down, right? It's a shame that we don't see him because he's on TSN and therefore, fortunately, has nothing to do with the NHL unless we're watching an American broadcast where NBC's picked him up. But yeah, Ferraro, I feel, hands down.
But if Bieksa wanted it, he would
Bieksa,
be... Oh, yeah.
Well, I see them as... They have two different personality types, but both, I think, would provide, phenomenal
Yes, I agree.
perspective. Just like I would love there to be that mixture of like one night it's Ferraro, the next night it's Bieksa. That would just be great hockey comedy.
Yeah. Chris, as we get ready to wrap things up, do you want to remind people about episode number 200?
Yeah, so as we let off at the top of the show, episode 200 is going to be happening in 2 weeks' time. We have Clay Emo rejoining the podcast for a reunion tour, so to speak. And he was my original host before he ended up having to retire because life gets busy. And heck, his kids are all like sports superstars. If you've been following along, like... I think Jake's been like winning Canadian.
Yeah, I was getting college interest too.
And then his eldest Sean just graduated from.
He's going to the Sauder School of Business in UBC as well.
Hopefully, he does better than his dad.
That's a low bar. It's a low bar.
I can take a shot at Clay. He'd take the same shot. But no, like I ran into them at the.
I saw Clay the other day too.
The most successful
Did I tell you I saw Clay the other day?
Yeah.
My beer league roller hockey team vanquished his roller hockey team.
Oh, okay. Well, did you?
I wish I could. He was quote unquote injured for that one. He was behind the bench.
Oh, I see.
Expert door opener though.
He saw Matt Lee on the other side. And
yeah,
just like
quivered in fear. I know.
But speaking of episode 200, we are looking for a way to get you, our listeners, involved as well. So stay tuned to Discord as well as social. I'm just hammering out those details, but I think it would be cool to have you, our listeners,
be involved.
Chime in your thoughts on the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast. Let us know, how you found us and how long you've been listening as well. Because we're the longest running Canucks podcast, but we know that some of our listeners have been, with us right from the beginning, too. So I think it would be really cool to hear everyone else's introspective. Speaking of listeners, however, one of the things that long-term listeners know about is if we get a review, better and different, we read them. Guess what? We got 2 reviews.
And they're both stinky.
Last weekend. So we got 2 reviews. They both came in on the weekend. I think one was on Saturday, one was on Sunday, which is just an interesting coincidence. But yes, the first review gave us 1 out of 5 stars.
So we got a star, is what you're saying.
Snuff. This is from... We got a star, that's right. It can't be 0, but regardless, we got at least 1. This was from G. Hazelwood. G. Hazelwood says, gave it a try as many other hockey podcasts slow down in the summer. Very negative spin on all analysis and 0 understanding of what goes into building a winning team. Unsubscribing today.
It must have heard you.
Well, I am sorry... I think it's quite clear that I don't know how to build a winning team. I have not gotten a job offer from the Vancouver Canucks. Granted, I have not applied for a job with the Vancouver Canucks, and ultimately, I am a fan. I think, actually, on that note, and I know G. Hazelwood, unfortunately, you're not tuning into this, I will admit, like, when I see reviews and when someone says, there's too much negative, this and this, I would like for us to improve. But there's one thing about our podcast I've always been open to, is criticism, because I feel that we can always become better at what it is. Fortunately, maybe it's too late for you and us to get you back as a listener. But I want to make it very clear to those of you still tune in. This is a fan podcast. This is a akin to what I would have grown up with, where you had just a bunch of friends hanging out, like, at the bar or at dinner or watching a game on TV, where we're all just, talking about the team. We all have different opinions. It's the water cooler opinion, and that's what this podcast is meant to be. We're not meant to be, the professional radio, commentary that you get from 650 or 1040, or I don't know about you, Matt, but I can't imagine Anna or Adam are looking to angle for jobs as well with the league and what have you. We're looking to do this because it's something we enjoy. We enjoy talking hockey. And yeah, some of our takes are garbage. In fact, most of mine
probably yours.
But that said, if that's what you're looking for and you're still tuning in, great. I'm going to continue to produce garbage takes because, unfortunately, I'm just a guy who enjoys watching Canucks hockey, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. I've been following them since the 80s. The other review that came in, also 5 stars, least favorite Canucks podcast. This is from Rusty Snipes. And it's short and to the point. I find this podcast is very, that was in all caps, negative. And the analysis isn't even accurate. So I can't agree or disagree because, quite frankly, I don't know what accurate analysis looks like. Probably be hitting me smack in the face, and I'd be wondering what that happened to be. But again, I do appreciate G. Hazelwood and Rusty Snipes leaving those reviews, good, better, and different. I honestly will say I will read each and every one of them out. I shared them with the hosts, and Adam, he actually spoke up in Discord and apologized. He actually said, "My bad," and I know the running thing is that Adam is negative. I actually find Adam comes from the same place that I am. I mean, we've had these discussions before, right? Where Adam and I, we're big fans of the potential, GM Lawrence Gilman. Like that's who we thought should have been in charge. That doesn't necessarily make us right. Imagine if Lawrence Gilman was in charge and the team was still in the tank. We'd probably be still talking about it the same way, and we'd be like, why the heck didn't they bring in Jim Benning? And I don't imagine we'd actually have a reality where that was the case. But anyhow, it is what it is. But thank you for, leaving those reviews. If there are others, though, that you haven't felt the desire to review because you're like, oh man, I don't want to tell them how I truly feel, don't worry about it. But hey, if you would rather let us know, and you'd say, hey, I don't want you to share it with everyone, shoot me a private message on Discord.
Or on Twitter.
Just say, hey, Chris, here's your thoughts. Or on Twitter, at the C4 Podcast on Twitter. Myself or Anna will get it, and we'll talk a little bit about it. I mean, if there's ways that we can improve the podcast, we're always looking for them. So hey, please, let us know. We'd like to improve, but we're still going to be around. We're going to, continue to provide you content each and every week during the season, and that is something to point out. Come September, we'll be firing this podcast back in a weekly mode. That'll be pretty cool. And we've got some things that we're thinking of doing a little bit differently over the course of the season to really get people involved. So please, again, stay tuned. But Matt, any final words of wisdom you want to share with our 1,000?
Episode 200, 2 weeks from now. Check it out.
And as for me, I am too stoked that episode 200 is just around the corner. When I started this podcast eons ago, I was just excited that we were going to get a couple of episodes in. The fact that we still remain around is amazing, and I hope we continue to record content and provide you all of these hot takes, garbage and otherwise, for years to come. So on behalf of Matt Lee at @Matt_61, myself, Chris at Lightforce, the Missing in Action, Adam Ovenel, Carter at AdamFOC, and Anna Forsyth at AForsyth03, you can find the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast every which way that you can possibly listen to a podcast. So please, if you haven't done so already, click that subscribe button. If you are hearing us for the very first time, you've probably also learned we are supported by the Overtime Media Network, and there are a lot of great Overtime podcasts out there for all of your sports podcast needs. So please check them out. But I'm going to sign this episode off as I do with the final 2 words, and that is, we're out.
Thanks for listening to the C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com.